Yeah, I know, kind of not the most amazing rendition of the music. Welcome, huge movie fanatic Nate stopping on by. This time I'm coming your way to do a movie review of a movie that over the years, starting probably back in the 90s with like, they put out like a deluxe Laserdisc release of this that I can remember renting. And then I got a DVD cheap at one point, and then I recently got a relatively decently priced Blu-ray. Over the years, I've tried to get into this movie, and every time like I watch it, like in years go by, I completely forget about it, and then I revisit it, hoping that Steven Spielberg, John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, the other guy too. What the hell's his name? John Candy and other people. John Williams music, 1941, an era I love. I should be able to get into this movie, but every time I watch it, I absolutely cannot, for reasons I'll get into in the review. I'm, coming at you to review this movie that I want to like, but my common sense won't allow it. Stopping on by to review the Steven Spielberg film that came out, I think, in 1979 by the name of 1941, and honestly I don't know who's actually the top, or billed as the top, star. Dan Aykroyd, I think, possibly, maybe John Belushi. I mean, this is such a goofy movie for so many reasons. Like, there's so many characters that it's hard to know who's like the star or whatever, and it's just like, John Belushi's like barely in it, but he's like a big, he's on the front cover or whatever, and the poster art, or he's one of the main stars in the credits and stuff. It's just such a frickin' goofy movie. So basically, I've never seen Sugarland Express yet, which I probably should see. So in my opinion, Steven Spielberg's early years were obviously, in my opinion, his strongest years. Let's face it, like things like Duel, which I grew up with. I absolutely love Duel. I think that's his first film. And then he potentially did Sugarland Express after Duel. I've never seen Sugarland Express. I probably should. I've seen this film he did called Jaws, this little known film he did called Jaws. Love Jaws. Absolutely think, I grew up with Jaws and Duel and Jaws and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Absolutely love Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He actually wrote and directed that one. It was like this passion of his, at least, I can't speak for Sugarland Express, but at least the 3 of the 4 first films he did, the 3 of them that I've seen, absolutely stellar movies. Every one of them. Duel, Jaws, Close Encounters, absolutely amazing on this unbelievable role as a filmmaker, good track record. And then comes up this project, which, I watched the little retrospective interviews and making of stuff. You've got these 2 guys, the 2 Bobs, Bob Gale, Bob Zemeckis, who have this idea for this parody about, something based kind of on a true story, kind of not, about after Pearl Harbor, after the events of Pearl Harbor, and at Pearl Harbor, the people on the West Coast were all paranoid about a Japanese invasion, so let's do a parody about it. And Steven Spielberg got connected to it, and what a horrible decision. I mean, on his part to after his the hits, Jaws, and Close Encounters, just back-to-back hits. We're going to do this, and I mean, I don't understand how anyone, 1941 fans, feel free to attack me all you want or whatever, but I just, every time I watch this, and it's actually hard. I don't think when I revisited it recently, I don't think I was even able to do it all in one sitting. I kind of had to do the first half one day and then go back and finish it the next day, because it's so mind-numbing. And honestly, I don't think I saw this until the 90s. It would have been interesting, like, if I had seen this in the 80s, and if I'd had a chance to grow up with it, if I'd feel differently about it. Because let's face it, I mean, there's a lot of movies that, like a lot of things that I saw as a kid that I liked, that maybe I wouldn't have liked if I hadn't seen them until I was older. This could be one of them, but this is so goofy that I might not have even liked it as a kid, because when I was a kid, I was watching movies like 2001: A Space Odyssey and enjoying movies like that. So it's like I may have never been at the small enough mindset to actually enjoy this, even as a toddler or a baby or as a little embryo or whatever. I might have always been too whatever smart or whatever to enjoy this movie. Basically, it's just, I guess, after Spielberg's successes with these relatively serious movies with, I mean, what's great about Jaws and Close Encounters is they're like serious subjects with fun characters and fun, you know, it's not like they're completely serious, they're funny as well. And this movie is just like, it's the same year, I think, as, you know, John Landis' Animal House, and it's just like, I don't know, it's just like we're, you know, I know that movie's got a, you know, is famous for being whatever and stuff, and, you know, that's a movie I kind of want to like too because of the era it takes place in, but like, both of these movies, I mean, I can watch, Animal House is probably easier to watch than this, well, it's shorter, that helps, but, oh my god, this thing is just so slapstick, it's just painful to watch, and it's just, it's hard to believe, honestly, that so many of these big actors like Ned Beatty and even Laureen, how do you pronounce her last name, Gray or whatever, Murray Hamilton from Jaws, and you know, Roy Scheider's wife from Jaws, and Eddie Deason. I mean, it's so funny that this whole movie is so annoying that a lot of the characters are so annoying that Eddie Deason doesn't even stick out as you know, particularly more annoying, because the whole movie is annoying. He's just another annoying character. And from what I hear, the guy who played the mayor in Jaws, I can't remember his name at this moment. Is it Murray Hamilton or something? That might be him. He actually absolutely like hate, you know, he was stuck sitting next to Eddie Deason for the whole movie in that, you know, Ferris wheel thing. And I think he said, or not he said, but you know, one of the Bobs, Gale or Zemeckis said that Murray Hamilton hated Eddie Deason. It's just like, no kidding, way to go. I'm glad he could admit it, but oh my God, I mean, imagine being stuck next to him for your entire, more or less your entire role in this movie. Oh my God. But anyway, I'm not going to do a beat by beat of this movie because I'd go insane and then they'd have to put me in the booby edge. But, you know, it starts, you know, I'm sure Steven Spielberg threw this part in. It starts with this Jaws parody and featuring the actual actress from the beginning of Jaws once again, you know, going into the ocean, and this time she's not, you know, attacked by a shark, but the Japanese submarine comes up and she gets stuck on the top of it, and instantly the movie sets up the kind of tomfoolery this whole movie is going to be. And incidentally, like the theatrical cut's like 2 hours long, and then on home video, I think the first time it was possibly ever released in the extended version was in that Laserdisc in the 90s, the collector's edition or whatever that I rented from a video store in the 90s after I got a Laserdisc player. But like the extended version is like 2 hours and possibly 20 minutes or something like that long, and it's just like, oh my God. And oh my God, it's so long. But even the 2 hour version is long. But that sets up just the tone for the entire movie, which is absolutely like as infantile as you could like get. Like, I've never been a fan of Three Stooges. Like, this might be for Three Stooges fans and that kind of tomfoolery. If you like that kind of stuff, you know, you'd probably like this movie. Like, I like Goofy, but I mean, this is Goofy just taken to this level that shouldn't even be legal. I'm kind of kidding and kind of not when I say that. Like, you know, maybe chalk it up to just me getting on in years or something. But I mean, like I say, I've never been able to actually like this movie, even as a teenager in the 90s and in my 20s, maybe 30s when I got the DVD, and now when I got the Blu-ray. It's just like, why do I keep buying this? Like, I think if I get a better resolution version or something, I'll enjoy it. It's just not the case. Well, the reason I got the Blu-ray is because the DVD that I got, and maybe every DVD, I don't know, but the DVD I have only's got the extended version, and I wanted to see the theatrical cut and see if that's more bearable. It really isn't. But anyway, the premise of this, well, Christ. I mean, like, this movie has a premise, but that's the premise, is it's like, you know, the people on the West Coast are all paranoid about a Japanese attack on them in the days following Pearl Harbor. Oh, this is, yeah, right around Christmas, so I think the movie came out possibly around Christmas as well, so it's a good movie to watch around Christmas, I guess. I was a little late to the game to do that. I think I rewatched it in January, but oh my God, it's just such a waste of, like, you know, John Belushi and frickin' Dan Aykroyd and John Candy and basically every actor and actress that's in the movie. And one thing I do want to say is, like, that blonde bombshell chick, you know, like the young girl who's, like, you know, connected with the one guy, and that one guy it's always after, like, she's like, what a face she's got. Oh my God, that's one good thing I can say. about the movie. No, before I forget, before I end the review, I do want to say, like, in my opinion, the strongest, the biggest strength of this movie, obviously, is John Williams' music. And Steven Spielberg said himself, I guess he said this. This is supposedly what he said. Is he actually likes the march in this more than the Indiana Jones march that he'd end up coming up with, a couple of years later for the first Indiana Jones film. And I don't know if I can agree with that, but I can agree with the fact that the march in this movie, like that John Williams came up with, like dun 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 dun, like it's a really great theme. And honestly, it sounds more like, what the hell's his name? Elmer Bernstein, the guy who did the music for a lot of the early Ivan Reitman movies like Stripes and Meatballs, Stripes, Ghostbusters, and Saturn III. That actually sounds more like Elmer Bernstein than it does John Williams, in my opinion, like that main theme. But in my opinion, the music in this movie is the biggest, the most confident thing in this movie. Well, I guess it's just the most enjoyable thing, I mean, one thing I do really like about the movie is obviously being in the analog days of pre-CGI and things like the miniatures. There's a lot of miniature stuff in this movie, miniature, cities and planes and, freaking amusement park piers and stuff. So there's a decent amount of miniature work in this, and the miniatures are really fun. I mean, I always loved miniatures. I grew up in the frickin', late 70s and the 80s and watching Ultraman and Godzilla, and back when that stuff looked really hokey with the miniatures and things. So I always appreciate, miniatures in movies. And even though you can just tell right away it's a miniature, I always appreciate the effort and the time put into doing that. And the kind of newfangled technology at the time they did for the model planes flying and, going down, flying forward and, being able to spin upside down and this kind of stuff. And honestly, if you watch the movie, they created this big stretch of city street or whatever, and the planes are just going down up and down this street so often. But it's they probably overdid it, but you can't blame them because it looks so good. But anyway, the premise of this movie is simply that, just panic and basically frickin' Hollywood and California about a Japanese invasion of the Pearl Harbor variety in the weeks following Pearl Harbor, and the hilarity that ensues, a quote-unquote hilarity that ensues. And that's one of my big problems with this movie is, I find it particularly offensive when I just have a really, really hard time with movies. And there's was it Ben Stiller? What the hell was the name of that movie where Robert Downey Jr. played someone who was more... there's some movie where Robert Downey Jr. played a different race or whatever. I can't think of it right now. Tropical Thunder, is that it? I got a Blu-ray of that years and years ago for maybe $3 or something, never having seen it before. I have a really, really hard time with movies that make light of war, because war is this absolutely atrocious thing that, depending on what frickin' generation you were born into, sometimes without choice you were actually bullied into participating in. And I guess you can, for the more recent decades, you can kind of say in a way you're bullied in just a different way by making the cost of living so high and jobs paying so little that maybe instead of bullying people in by drafting them, they bully them in by saying, well, nothing pays dick out there in the world, and to get like some free education or this or that or perks, you can sign up for military or whatever. So maybe they're still kind of bullying people in, but maybe a little more subtly. But you got hundreds and thousands of people, not even Americans, but just people all around the world over the last 100 years that have participated in so much of this bullshit warhorse shit. And I just find it really, really in bad taste. I'm not saying that, they shouldn't be allowed to make, parody, war movie comedy things. You should be allowed to, but I personally think it's in really, really, really bad taste to make like comedies about war. There's this shot in Tropical Thunder where someone's getting shot and he's like doing this hokey slow motion like And it's just like, do you know how many fucking people just died and were miserable and actually survived Vietnam and came back miserable and the rest of their lives were miserable? And it's like they're making fun of this shit which has plagued the world for the last 100 years, you know, whether it's World War I, World War II, Korea, frickin' Desert Storm, Afghanistan, you know, just, and now with what's going on, and like this endless bullshit where I'm not, like I say, I'm not even talking about Americans, just all these people worldwide, depending on which country you're on, what side you're fighting on, all these people's lives just ruined, and they're ruining other people's lives or ending other people's lives, all this kind of shit. And every time, not every time, but depending on how, well, I don't really watch a lot of war movie parody comedy movies, but like these two stick out, you know, to me, like Tropical Thunder in 1941 is parodying like this atrociousness, which is, you know, war, you know, and I just think it's in really bad taste, and it's just such a waste of these actors like Christopher Lee, and I mean, I don't know if Slim Pickens was ever anything. Yeah, you can waste him, I guess, but you know, it was just like, God dang, I just found this whole thing, and I can't even really say what happens because it's such a mishmash or whatever. Like, characters are introduced, and then, like, you know, you might not, like John Belushi, like he's introduced, you think he's going to be a main character, and then I think later on, not long later, you see him like fly over to Grand Canyon or something, and then it's like you don't see him until almost the end of the movie, and it's just like, this movie, I can't believe honestly it got produced, or who the hell put up the money, but I guess they figured Steven Spielberg with Jaws and Close Encounters, you know, maybe when he signed on, they gave him more money. I just don't understand how this movie got made, because it is just like this big, huge cluster F. And I'm just gonna say cluster F because, you know, it's not an R-rated movie. Technically, I mean, I don't know if I should swear during movie reviews that aren't for R-rated, but I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, if you can't tell, I'm not the biggest fan of 1941. I mean, it's got a really cute frickin' young Nancy Allen. I appreciate that, but she's this nympho, and it's even got the guy. I think it's the same guy from Animal House. Is like one of the main characters in this, if I'm not mistaken. I may be, I may not be. I'm not sure, but it was a big year for him if that is him in this as well. But oh my God, you know, I just, you know, like I said, I'd like to like this movie, but I can't really like this movie. That might be my review of it. It's just absolute absurdity, like to the extreme. And if you like that kind of thing, you might like this movie. I'm actually really interested to see if there's any feedback from viewers and what they think about this movie. And like I say, just as I often always say, you know, this is just what I think. You know, if you're a fan of this movie, more power to you. You know, I don't begrudge you that, or I don't think you're an idiot or whatever. So if you like this movie, please feel free to let me know why. Like, maybe you did grow up. Maybe people who like this movie, you know, grew up with it, and I can understand that, you know, liking it because you grew up with it. You're kind of got a bias or whatever, or you know, there's whatever. So I don't know what the hell I'm saying. But what would my star rating for 1941 be? God, I don't know. God dang, I don't think I can even go a star. I guess I can go 3/4 of a star out of 4 stars for 1941. Once again, my opinion, the biggest strength of this movie is the music by John Williams, the score, which is absolutely amazing, and you know, the miniature effects and stuff. It does make you wonder, like, how Spielberg, with like the movie he did before this, Close Encounters, was so like visually, you know, revolutionary for the time, or is really well done visually. And then when you cut to this movie, there's a couple blue screen shots, I think, where John Belushi's in the cockpit of the plane flying, and it just looks horrible. Like you know, Spielberg Close Encounters had just really good visual effects people working for him, I guess. I don't know where they went. Maybe they were busy doing who knows what, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back. But there's a couple of blue screen shots, John Belushi in the cockpit, and it just looks atrocious. So everything else, though, is like actual, I guess, planes and stuff on wires, which is really cool. And I think that's like, I think the shots of John Belushi in the cockpit might be some of the only optical effects, and everything else is like miniatures and wires and stuff, which is really, really cool. And like I say, that aspect of this movie I absolutely love. And it's kind of cool that they have it take place around Christmas, and there's those city sets and stuff where there's Santa Clauses and Christmas lights and all that kind of stuff. And oh, before I end the review, one of the strongest scenes I did think, and it's something he'd end up doing better in, you know, the opening of Temple of Doom, but the kind of the jitterbug thing or whatever, the dance thing, there's some bits, there's like one shot I think that sustains and they loom a crane up or something where they're all choreographed doing this jitterbug contest dance thing and the music's going, and that's like, that put goosebumps on my, you know, like on my skin. That was some cool bit, you know, me being a fan of just the era and big band and all that kind of stuff. You know, that scene was, you know, parts of that scene were cool, you know, and but like I say, it's just like some of the stuff like that scene is like good ideas or good intent or whatever, and it's just not like just focused in on it. By the time he gets to like the beginning of Temple of Doom, like, you know, I think that was done a little bit better or whatever. But anyway, I think this review went on a little longer than I intended. That'll be my review of 1941. It's like, I want to like it. John Belushi, you know, John Candy a little bit, Dan Aykroyd, but it's just like, and it's funny because I grew up with the Blues Brothers, and I always thought Dan Aykroyd was that skinny just when he was younger, but it's like, this is a year before Blues Brothers, and he was thicker. So why did he get, I wonder why he got all skinny, well, you know, before they filmed Blues Brothers. Like, was he in the hospital for a while? Did he lose a lot of, you know, because that's just weird, because he was a little more of his normal heavier self in this movie, and then he's skinny just as a rail in Blues Brothers, and then of course he goes back to his normal weight, you know, later on and for the rest of his life. So I don't know what the hell happened in, you know, leading up to the shoot of Blues Brothers. So that's, I tried to look online, why was Dan Aykroyd so skinny in Blues Brothers, and I couldn't find anything. So anyway, I'm still rolling, whoops. If you made it this far into the review, thank you very much for doing so. Hope you enjoyed the review. And as always, we'll catch you guys on the next video.